I'm joined today by 3 of the Last Epoch developers, some of who I've met, some of who I haven't. There's Mike. You can just, say hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
There's Jad, the CEO Andy. He's like, the big guy.
How's it going, everyone?
And Stan as well, who I have met.
Hello there. So what are we going to do here? Are we going to start new characters?
Yeah, so I was thinking, if you guys are okay with it, Ziz and you guys obviously did an SC playthrough the other day, and you went through a lot of the core questions. There's still plenty of questions left over, but I was thinking to spice the second day out, we could do a hardcore run. I know hardcore's not working technically, but obviously, we can just stay dead, right?
Self-imposed hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
okay, let's do it.
To make things a bit spicier, you don't have to agree to this though. This is asking too much. But I figured we'll make a little bit of friendly banter. If I die, I will buy and gift chat an amount. I don't know how many. I was thinking 50, but I don't know. We'll see. An amount, like I'll just match whatever you want to do, of keys to the game. So if I die, I'll gift a bunch of keys to chat. But if all 3 of you die, you have to do the same thing. But all 3 of you would have to die. What do you think?
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we're gonna do a hardcore Q&A of multiplayer. This will be my first time, obviously not theirs, but this will be my first time trying it out. I've been waiting for multiplayer for a while, as many of you have as well. So I'll just jump into it. Now, this is like a closed sort of, I guess I should say now, it's like a closed, what do you guys call this server?
This is like a closed alpha. It's our community test. Multiplayer is still in kind of like an alpha state.
Yeah. So this is super early. Like the super nice that they let me and Ziz have a go. It'll be open. I think you guys were saying yesterday. Hopefully by the end of the year, if things go.
We want to try. Yeah, we want to try to have an open beta this year. But if things are going well, it's our goal. But like always, have to make sure it's great before we release.
Alright, right at the beginning when the game's super hard, we have no gear. We're going to start you off with a hard one. So you already talked about it, but we're just going to recover some of the stuff from yesterday. But obviously people are really, 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 really curious about trade. So is there like... I guess we'll just go over the answer from yesterday. So like, what are the plans for trade?
Yeah, we know that people are anxiously awaiting information on trade. It has huge implications in games like this. We won't be unveiling our updated plans for trade today, but I will say that our first trial of trade is going into the CT build to gather feedback on here within about the next week or so. I will say that our main goal with trade has always been to ensure that it does not become the main or always best way to obtain gear upgrades and sidestep the item hunt and crafting system that we've poured a lot of love into. So that's the main goals, and we have a trial for what this will be. Hopefully we get good feedback on this coming out in the near future for our CT program.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I think you were mentioning something we talked about before, and you don't really want to promise things about trade system before you've actually had a chance to test it, try it, get good player feedback. So we definitely want to make sure we do that this time around.
Oh, here we go. Right, it's a bit of load screen there. Yeah, I mean, obviously managing player expectations is a pretty big deal. You can't really unopen Pandora's box, right? So the next question on here is about multiplayer servers. So again, it's been covered, but to touch base, what are the planned multiplayer servers?
Sure. I can go down the list again, but to confirm the major, so we're obviously in the main regions, Europe, North Americas, potentially additional in Canada just for the extra performance. I think what we noticed players were really interested in were some of the other regions. So we were confirmed for Asia Northeast and Southeast, and East as well. We also have Australia Southeast and West, as well as South America and potentially South Africa, though we haven't confirmed South Africa yet. We're still investigating, but it seems likely. So we're basically in all the spots that you would hope we would be.
Yeah, I'm sure they're happy to hear that.
Yo, did you get a unique out of that first chest right there? Yesterday we were playing with Ziz, and right off the bat he got a unique.
Did not get so lucky this time.
Okay.
Sky don't need gear to do better than this. Is fine. Now, next big question is about release dates. Obviously we talked briefly about the multiplayer test server, but obviously people are anxious to get into the full game 1.0 release.
Yeah, so right now the dates that we are okay with stating is that we're trying to get the open beta or our next patch 0.9 out by the end of this year. It's going to depend on a few factors here, how many bugs we can squish inside of multiplayer, scale testing, things like that. As you'll see in today's stream, we have made significant progress in terms of multiplayer, and we're feeling pretty good about it where it is right now, and the progress that we'll be able to make over the next couple months. In terms of 1.0, we still don't have a release date out in the wild yet, but we're very transparent with how things are coming along, and so if you follow our updates regularly, you'll probably have a good idea of when we're getting pretty darn close. Yeah,
I know. Gosh, I can't remember what I was gonna say. This is hard on hardcore. This is a bad idea. Whose idea was this?
I'm using a health cost spell. I should probably stop.
The next question as well was how do people get access, but I suppose, they can still apply right now, right? It is closed, but you are still looking for more testers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I there's a link I just put in chat there for the forum post that explains the details of the community tester program and how to apply. You're basically just sending an email request, and we're getting back to you as soon as we can. Unfortunately, we do have a couple thousand requests in the backlog right now, and we're getting through them as fast as we can, but there are a lot of people that want in.
How do you pick? You just go yes, no, yes?
We're not being super selective about it. We hear in the community right now, like, oh, I submitted an application to get into the CD program and it's been a few days, and does this mean that I'm not getting in? Right now it's a bit of a manual process on our end, and we actually need to bring in way more CT testers than we have right now to start to see how things look at scale. And so if you guys haven't gotten an invite to it yet, if you have gone through the process, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get one. It just means that our team is working furiously to get through these things in the kind of manual process that we have. So if you guys are interested in joining, please do apply. We would very much appreciate it.
Beautiful. All right, now I have a massive list of questions here, everything left over from yesterday. Hopefully I get to get through the full list. I'll try to answer questions from chat as well. So feel free to at me like now, pretty much, if you want. Actually, I'll get to the one from yesterday. So Ziz was gonna answer a question from Lizard. I'm sure you guys knew Lizard. He was curious about. So this is jumping straight into like an endgame question here. He really liked the fracture system because it had this really high risk, high reward outcome, where if you kept crafting, you could destroy your gear or brick your gear. And he was wondering if there's plans for more stuff like that. Think maybe like Varlobs and PoE, some sort of final extra stage of high risk, high reward crafting.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that yesterday. I think we were when we were answering about what we like about our directed crafting and like mixing that with some of the additional things we added, like the legendary system. Risk and reward is something we do want to stack back in the end game, because we do believe we have a really great foundation for getting yourself a set of gear that you need or can use to make a build viable. So pushing it to the next level, we are very interested in exploring more risk and reward in the future.
Yeah, it adds this like extra depth that I really like. Definitely very good.
Yeah, I think it would go really well as a possible dungeon reward.
True, it would, wouldn't it? Yeah. You just slap it in, right? Like the Corruption Forge or something.
So we have some other ideas too, for the actual like item system itself. We're not ready to reveal them yet, but we're thinking about that.
Why is he chasing me? Yeah, I see
what's
going on here. I see what's going on here. Alright.
Well, my health is moving up and down, so you can't prove anything.
We have Justin on the other side with the controller just controlling the enemies, targeting steel.
Did Balthus send you? Forces are...
Here we go, this is a big one. So Plasma Keystrokes asks, what improvements or future improvements are they most proud of or excited for in terms of combat feedback? Like animation, input responsiveness, VFX, FXX, etc.
Yeah. This is a great question, and I'm glad that somebody asked this. We're doing quite a lot in this regard now for combat feel. Now that we're getting a bit further along, we have more bandwidth. We're going to be putting a lot of polish into the game as a whole, just all aspects of it really. For this combat feel, really, we're updating a ton of visual effects throughout the game right now. We're improving ragdolls and death animations nearly across the board. Some enemies just being flat out replaced. I say some, actually quite a few. You guys have probably seen a number of those teased on some of the blog posts that we're putting out here. We've recently implemented some elemental effects on death and elemental colored hit flashes, which sounds like a small thing, but it feels really nice whenever you hit something with a fireball and the hit flash is not white, but it's orange. We're making big passes at audio, especially death sounds, which have a big impact, and we're adding things like directional hit effects. So if you hit an enemy from the right-hand side, the blood will fly off to the left in the direction that you would expect it to. We're even doing things like having directional screen shake for high impact hits and things like that we're hoping to get in for 1.0. So all around, a lot of effort being put into this, and for the enemies that we have made these adjustments for, they really are making a big difference in how moment-to-moment gameplay does feel. So yeah, big focus right now. A lot of these things you guys will get your hands on in the upcoming 0.9 patch, and then there's still a little bit more to go before we get to 1.0 in that regard.
Yeah. I know combat feels a big one because this game's ooh, there we go. This game has been a big work in progress for many years, and like the graphics and the combat's changed like a lot since 4 years ago. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a long work in progress to improve all those things over time. I think it's always funny when people kind of will take a year or two and look back. They go, "Holy cow, these changes!" Right? But as we add these iteratively, it's like one piece at a time, and we're building them up over the years. But like Judd said, we have a lot more people now to be able to focus on it and make it as great as we can. Feel a lot better for 1.0, really.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about a game that's not technically out yet. Because this is still in beta, you change massive systems just like that. Like crafting got a big rework. Defense, I remember endurance wasn't even a thing. I think, or it was. Yeah, I think endurance was relatively new, like a year ago or something, and.
It was a secret thing that we didn't tell anyone about, and then we added it properly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's definitely a time to do it. Being in this early access phase, we're taking in feedback and making changes very quickly. The community's been really fantastic at helping us set up targets for things that don't feel fantastic or not living up to expectations. We are quick to iterate on things, and we're quick to bring things out. And even post-release, we'll be making significant changes to systems whenever we feel that they're needed. So we'll have quite a bit of change queued up each time we release a big patch.
This is a big question. Chat's asking who is better, Steel or Zizaran? You should know immediately, right? It should be obvious in the first 5 minutes.
I recuse myself from this conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna point
I'm
to
about
Dan,
to die.
because Dan's met you guys in person.
Yeah. I'm about to die. Sorry, I can't answer that.
Competing for second place is never good anyways, though, so I mean...
True. I did actually notice it was... I'll just cover it again. A lot of people keep asking about the classes and masteries because they're still a work in progress. They've still got to be fully fleshed out. So I guess we'll just talk about those real quick, like the Warlock, the Falconer, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. I can run through that really quick again. So the Runemaster, we actually just recently went through the whole our pre-design process where we kind of create the ideas, kind of generate what excites us about the class, and we had a bunch of goals in mind. We've actually worked our way through that. And we're pretty confident in what we want to actually build and test first for the Runemaster. We did the Runemaster first because we're already pretty certain where we want to go with the Warlock and the Falconer, and like we were saying yesterday, you should see it sometime. By 1.0, you should see the Masters coming. They may not. You won't see them for the 09 open beta release though. But yeah, we were just. It's an ongoing process, and we've kicked it off, and we're really excited with what we've thought about already for the Runemaster.
Awesome. Okay, this is another question from the spreadsheet here. Core support would like to ask. They would like to see the game succeed in the long term. With multiplayer release, this is a huge opportunity for Last Epoch to start competing with the big dogs in the genre. How do they effectively plan on marketing this? I mean, it's kind of like what we're doing now a little bit, right? I mean, a little bit.
Yeah,
right now.
So they're asking about like marketing, essentially, with multiplayer being released soon.
Right. So
Yeah.
we have a comprehensive marketing plan going into the 1.0 version of the game. 0.9 is going to be a soft launch for multiplayer, and we don't want to put a ton of marketing effort and spend towards 0.9 because there's going to be bugs, there's going to be things that we need to figure out. There's been studios much larger with much more experience than us to have issues on release of a server authoritative multiplayer game. So we expect there to be a little bit of turbulence right there at the beginning, stuff that we'll react to quickly. But we do have a comprehensive marketing plan going into 1.0. I can give a few details there because we do have some fairly exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we're working with an agency called Buddha Jones, who are incredibly talented, very cool people. They made trailers for lots of games and movies, including things like The Mandalorian, a bunch of Marvel and DC movies. Countless games. They've done things for like Dark Alliance, Age of Empires, etc., etc. So we're working with them for the 1.0 release trailer of the game. Very excited about that. We are working on quite a few larger video content pieces than we ever have before, and so we're working on a lot of like 2.5D cutscenes. We might have a short CGI trailer that actually comes out before the 1.0 release trailer. We're staffing up the marketing and support team right now. We're spinning up a Discord for content creators to share information with them, as soon as we're able to. We've got all the traditional social marketing stuff that you would suspect from any type of marketing campaign. Of course, that'll be rolled in. And then a core of our marketing has always been to just continue to interact with the community on a personal basis. There's no better way to market than actually having people go in and enjoy the game that you're creating and then tell others that the game is good, we like the people creating it. And so we'll be doing more stuff like this and continue just to engage with the community.
Yeah, I know one of the questions on this list was actually about cutscenes, because I know in Diablo those cutscenes were so like, I love those cutscenes.
Oh yeah, they're incredible. Their CGI team is just absolutely outstanding. If they turn into a movie company one day, I wouldn't be surprised. It's fantastic. It's not. I won't. I'll set expectations. We're not gonna have any like full 3D 3-minute long trailers that are completely like movie-esque.
Trailers.
Yeah. It's not in the cards for us at the moment. Maybe one day. Not soon. But we will have some very cool stuff coming in a stylized approach that we're really excited about.
Wait, you guys way ahead of me now? I'm gonna teleport to you guys.
You were in the study a second ago.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I ran ahead.
I'm right here.
Okay.
You're not. You are. I could see like as you're asking a question, you start zooming. like it creeps in.
Well, how am I gonna kill you guys if I don't, put the pressure on?
That's true.
Alright, because this guy's like a Giga Chad. Alright, Daxon says, my characters are too quick to gear at the moment. It's even faster than Diablo. Obviously you can still min-max, but are there plans to slow down gearing? With a league system like Peewee on the horizon, I can see myself being done after a weekend in the moment. So
that's something we... Yeah, I get that for sure. It's something we talk about a lot. We made the game early and we added a lot of stuff in between, and like the whole game loop changes a lot when you add a lot of design through the process of development, right? For us, we've talked about options of what we would want to do to stretch out game content, but we didn't really think it was a great idea to try to focus on like retention or numbers like that through our campaign. Many games talk about those things. We're really proud of being a game game, you can kind of enjoy, experiment with a lot of builds, have a great time, and actually access a lot of the content. So, you know, we want to prioritize enabling a wide range of builds. We want people to play for longer by adding more endgame systems to engage them in, for sure. You know, we want to add a lot of endgame content. We were talking about it yesterday. It keeps me up at night. Is what we're thinking a lot about what to do immediately on post-launch. But in terms of the campaign, I think we really do enjoy where the experience is at and how it lets players kind of get into the end game, you know, at a reasonable pace. I get where they're coming from. Definitely a gamer. But I like the gaming to happen by us adding endgame rather than making the campaign slower and longer for others.
Yeah, actually, further down the list, complete opposite take was they actually wanted they wanted leveling alts, right? They wanted like that 1 to 50 experience to be quicker, like further down the list. So that's funny. I guess
You can hop into that if you want.
Yeah. So like, are there plans to make leveling alts easier or quicker? Like, I mean, obviously there's things like leveling gear, but I guess they want maybe alternate leveling or anything like that.
Yeah, and so like the adventure mode is usually the thing that gets brought up with this, and that's something we definitely looked at doing, but adding that whole extra game mode this early in the development process, and just we didn't have time to get something like that in. It is something that we've looked at and is very interesting to us, but we realized that it's not feasible for us at this point, and having dungeons in the game is sort of our take on that way to customize your leveling process and possibly speed it up as well. And we know there's some problems with especially like the tier 1 and the leveling process of that. And it's something we're definitely looking at updating and improving.
Right.
I always get Hammer of Loret in my first hour of a new character.
Would that
Every
be good
time.
for me? Semi-control.
Yeah.
Give it
That was
to
the
me.
chuckle in the middle of that.
Give it to me.
Unfortunately, we can't yet.
That would help you survive, and that's against my best interests.
True. Alright, Daxon also asks... Oh my god, I'm gonna die if I read this question.
Read it.
Do it.
Oh my god, I'm trying. Oh, I guess I have to read it. How's the development process going? I'm an engineer, so he's also an engineer. And he's curious about... This is a good question, actually. From my experience, games which don't have fundamental abstraction in place for multiplayer... I'm going back to you guys. Oh my god.
Yep.
And add these in at a later stage tend to have issues in multiplayer, and they never seem to be able to get rid of all of them. From what I can observe, a lot of the features were implemented for single player. Do you think this is a mistake?
I'm going to answer that question because the answer is also going to risk killing me. But yeah, it's an amazing question. It's a great call out for sure. It's not the ideal way to make an online video game. The best thing you should do is build everything from scratch at the beginning and have had that all laid out. For you know, a lot of people might even tell you it's kind of crazy to do it that way, but it got us to where we are now. It afforded us budget to be able to, you know, continue. I was talking a little bit about it yesterday. Was we were able to release our game early to players to get feedback, which allowed us to improve the game. And as players, you know, continued to actually buy it, engage with us, and we were able to, you know, have a bit more budget, we were able to kind of step back and make a lot more decisions and abstractions for multiplayer. For us, we've actually already abstracted almost the entire majority of everything that we do have to deal with. That was a lot of the effort you saw us in the last 2 years was actually focused specifically on that abstraction process. And there's certainly going to be issues that we'll have to work out in the underlying technology. But you actually, as you know, the engineer would probably understand, is not a lot of those are necessarily player facing. Like, you won't suffer those. Some of those technology decisions are things we're going to have to work on. Say if we fix a bug a certain way, it might be slightly different, but that shouldn't impact players. So to answer the second part of the question is, do we think it's a mistake? No, absolutely not. We got here from the decisions we made doing this, and you know, if we were to ever say make an action RPG again, we would certainly make it online feature functional from the start, but the decision we made there got the game to players as soon as possible, which I think is the most important thing we could have done.
Yeah, having context here of where EHG came from is probably important. I feel like a broken record. I've talked to this one a few times recently, but Last Epoch 11th Hour Games started as an after hours passion project. So there was no funding, there was less experience on the team, just a bunch of really die-hard action RPG enthusiasts that got together to make the next great action RPG was our slogan there for a long time. And so we had worked after hours for about 18 months to bring the game to Kickstarter, raised a little bit of money there. We at that point were able to bring on a couple of our engineers and our level designer full time. About a year later after that, we were able to release to Steam in early access, and that's when we started to get an amount of funding that would allow us to reach the larger vision that we had for the game. So we came from very humble beginnings, and unfortunately building the game as a server authoritative model from the ground up would have just required more resources than we had at that time.
Yeah, makes sense, because
Yes.
like you said, getting like the fundamentals of the game first probably was definitely the priority at the time, right?
Make the game good, and everything follows.
Yep.
Follow your feet.
God, that was scary.
Yeah, I definitely was real close there.
I'm glad I passed the question off to you, because I can just focus on dodging.
Yeah, you
Okay.
passed it off to me as two rare mobs ran at me.
That was good. Okay. Lizard actually has a question. Oh, I'm gonna. Hopefully I have an alt tab though. Oh, here we go. Yeah, we're good. Endgame question here from Lizard. The community puts a lot of emphasis in total EHP pools of different builds and characters. Is EHP something internally discussed for balance?
Mike, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's not as, we don't put as much pressure on it as I think the community does, but it is a term we use and something we do look at when we're talking about balance. So yes, but not. It's not like we line up every single build and say, okay, this is the EHP of all of these. Let's try and adjust that so they're all the same or anything like that.
Yeah. I think it's a lot like what I was saying yesterday about some things where players will ask us, like, what are our beliefs on trying to make a thing a certain way, and EHP is another good example of that, where we don't stare at and go, this is our EHP goal. We kind of look at what are various builds doing to either stack that, or what are they doing to survive other than that. It's just another variable in a larger system, so we definitely don't place it as a major singular emphasis.
Yeah, I know Lizard loves his rebuke because it makes him like an immortal god with 10 bajillion EHP, so...
Well aware of Blizzard build. Well aware of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and while we've put some effort into balancing the game, keep in mind that it is early access, and our main goal right now is to quickly iterate on systems and get them in a good spot. And we'll put more emphasis on balance once the game is at a 1.0 state.
Yeah, that was actually a really good question that leads on to this. Not sure who was asking it, but they were saying, do you think multiplayer, especially with release and as the game gets more eyes on it, do you think the balance will start to break more and more and more, like as more people like min-max the builds? Because right now it feels like you can jump into the game with pretty much most builds,
Yeah.
But as people set the bar higher and higher, do you think you'll have a problem with like meta builds being the only viable, you know what I mean? Like, do you think you'll have that problem?
We were talking about that a bit too. Yeah, we're not too worried about that. It's actually really exciting for us. I think having more people, more attention will bring out things like that. We'll be able to adapt and adjust. Dealing with meta builds, like we were saying, we like to take an iterative approach where possible, and make it clear that we're not going to keep one build as the de facto standard for a long time. That's really where we want to be post-launch, when we have that time to actually constantly focus on balance. With that said, if there's major outliers, if you want to make 100 builds more viable quickly, it's often better to deal with one really powerful build than to say make 100 buffs. So we'll tackle that balance from any direction that we can. I think anyone who's played the game sees we're pretty willing to make huge changes to those, like the meta builds at the time. We've actually seen a lot of meta builds shift over time. We're aware right now of what's happening too, and we're making adjustments.
totally not looking at my passives, wondering what to do. All right.
I die to these magma gorns all the time, so
You see
I'm
our
staring at
nifty
magma
little see our nifty little feature whenever you're looking at your passives or skills, it'll have a little book icon over the player's head.
Oh, that's funny.
I like
Yeah,
those
I
little
see it
things.
now. Yeah.
You can tell your friends that they're dying because they won't know.
I'm playing without looking.
Hey.
This is challenge mode.
Yeah,
Okay, I can't see.
yeah. Just get your entire skills panel up over your head, and try and play still. That's not easy.
A question that was covered yesterday, but we'll cover it again, is about season and leagues. Obviously, for the ARPG genre, like, you know, PoE is leagues, Diablo is seasons. This was asked yesterday, but chat's curious about what your model is for that. I think you guys said it was, you had a term for this. Cycles, there it is, yeah.
Yeah. And with those, yeah, for sure, we're looking to try to figure out what we want to do to distinguish ourselves in those cycles. You know, we really love the player wipe experience for sure, being able to start again fresh and everyone has a challenge on equal footing. That's definitely important for us. I think a lot of the game is built around being able to feel that progress. With that said, what we want to do is cycles. We're not necessarily looking to say copy the Path of Exile or Diablo model. We want to try to experiment with different kinds of like adding, removing, cycling features, which is really brand relevant to the term itself. We would love to be able to get to the point where we have a lot of content to cycle, experiment, and make significant changes to, as well as addition. So I mean, for us, we're still figuring it out, but we want to try different things than what you're used to.
Right.
Okay, ask us the softball while we're in the armor.
We get
Okay.
called out for not
Right.
calling cycles epochs quite often. We might have to revisit that.
Yeah, true. Some community
Yeah.
feedback, right?
It is true.
Alright, softball. When do we get the in-game transmog system, and when do we get the first MTXs to buy so we can support them and look for it? This is a real question. Alright, from Ani. Real question.
Yeah, the cosmetic store will be coming in a beta state in the 0.9 release, kind of our minimum viable state of this, so we can ensure that everything is watertight as we get into 1.0. So there will be limited options for cosmetic things that you can buy. I will plug right now that everything will be cosmetic only. There's no pay for power, there's no pay for convenience. All of that stuff is included with the base cost of the game, but the cosmetic store, you guys should get your hands on a minimum viable product coming in this next update 0.9.
Okay, so I disconnected.
So did I.
Me too.
Okay, good. Because if I was the only one who died there.
Oh, we're good.
We're good? We're alive?
Everything's fine.
We're alive, I think. How do we... wait.
Yeah.
Is there /deaths? Like, how would we know?
Your character will have a deathless tag, I think. I don't know if that's set up actually.
Actually, this is a good question. Alright, screw the softballs. What's the deal? Is there like a DC timer? 6 seconds? What's the logout macro? Like, what's going on there? There's a good time for it.
For like hardcore
Right.
like escape logout.
Uh-huh. I'm still deathless, by the way. We didn't die chat. We're good.
I'm failing to connect at the moment.
Now I'm nervous. Let's see, am I deathless? Yeah, we are. We're good.
Death timers for logout, or like the timers for logout, not fully tuned yet. That's a
Right.
huge focus for
Ooh.
closed testing and open beta. So
Right.
it's one of those features that seems like it's a small thing, but it's pretty major. There's a lot of tech and decisions that can work to make sure that it works precisely the correct way, since it's such an important thing to a player, right? Like it needs to be reliable and predictable in the way that we expect to design it. So we're still working on it through the closed alpha and open beta.
Do you have any idea where you're gonna head with it? Like, any idea at all?
We're- We're not gonna kill you if you press the logout button. If you want a very direct answer there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's such a big. I feel like it's a big fundamental question to hardcore, right? Because it changes. Like, if you have instantaneous logout to kill players, you need to be very punishing versus
Greetings.
having the time, and then you can, be a bit more lenient with, risk. Because you don't want
Yeah,
people
it's-
to die on every boss they try.
We definitely want to avoid the meta being, I'm gonna rely on my ability to log out quickly to survive hardcore. We don't want that to be the primary gameplay method, because that's it's not healthy for the like. I'm gonna push hardcore to something that's more difficult, and the like how far I can push is dictated based on how quickly I can log out, and that's not great. But also the feeling of I logged out and I log back in and I'm dead when I log back in, that sucks. That really sucks. And finding the balance between those two is hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know what the solution there would be.
So the hardest part with that challenge is what you need to do is actually split the different kinds of actions. So there's there's logout actions, there's disconnection actions, and you have to have different logic to handle all of the different
You
situations.
can do that?
You can. I mean, GGG has that as well. They actually do handle it. I think like a disconnect is a certain way compared to a logout. Like you have to be able to check those things as well from a service level to tell the actual quality of the service for the servers and the actual matchmaking system. So it's something that we will spend a lot of effort into tagging as well, because whatever we do to the logout design also impacts players who disconnect. So we have to work really hard at distinguishing what event is which to make it as best as we can.
So this is totally not even a question relevant, but am I immune to damage in the loading screen?
When you first load into a zone, you have a grace period. There's actually a little buff on your bar. That's a little orange clock symbol, and while that's there, you're completely immune to everything.
Okay, I'm not gonna get PK'd. This is not Diablo. This is great.
And it doesn't, it doesn't go away until you do something.
Okay.
I think you may. There may be a timer on it as well, but it's super long.
All right, let's try this again.
Okay. Actually, this is a funny throwback to yesterday. As the main campaign, so Garlisle Wilds asks, as the main campaign continues to extend, will monoliths change to be only accessible later, or do you like players being able to jump right into it like Zizaran, barely if the character is ready and skipping the campaign? If it is going to stay the way it is now, are there plans around the campaign content to make it valuable in its own right? So I assume that's like passives and stuff like that, like quest rewards.
Totally. Our exact decisions there aren't fully finalized. The monolith is intended to be accessible at the end of the campaign, but we're kind of keeping a close eye on the amount of grind that's necessary for creating alts. So right now, plans aren't final. We're aware of how it works right now, and we kind of are trying to understand how that's been integrated into like overall like player behavior.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of would be good to be able to skip it in a way if you were going to incorporate dungeons as an alternate leveling, right?
Right, and that's one of the things that we kind of have to, like, when we have more dungeons, like right now, we're still making a number more of them, and when we have more of those skips, more of that progression through the campaign, it's going to change how we think about this as well.
Yeah.
For us, I mean, the original decision was because we wanted to make sure people had access to content right away, because we were still making the campaign. I mean, we still are making the campaign, so that was important for us at the time.
I'm totally asking questions. So, a big one I've been seeing in chat a lot is about Twitch extension, actually. But I assume this feeds into like the whole API thing, right? Are there plans to have like an API like that for Last Epoch, so you can like see gear and all that kind of stuff in game, or on Twitch or whatever?
We're definitely we're exploring to build an API. Anyone, like our questions, if there's any engineers in chat, you're aware of the actual challenge behind building an API. It's something we want to do. We want to provide that kind of level of service to players. So yes, we are exploring it at the moment. There's no word on when we get it out. I would certainly say don't expect a full API at 1.0, but we are looking at it right almost immediately.
Apparently there's tons of engineers in chat. Easy. They all know, right, chat?
Yeah.
One of you guys want to toss that together for us?
Yeah. Just make the API, please.
Actually, this is another good point. Someone was asking about third-party tools. I mean, what's your take? Just your generic take on third-party tools? Like, how much should the game rely on them? Like, how much should you guys support them? Stuff like that.
How do you feel about them, Judd?
In general, we try to provide everything that a player is going to need directly in game. We go really over and above here, or at least we try to, and we're going to continue to. There's things like the in-game guide that will give you a lot of information. We're trying to make it so that the trade system that we incorporate doesn't make you actually have to leave the game. We're trying to make that all inclusive in the game itself.
That makes sense. Well, you can never really predict with third-party tools like what people will, because they usually prop up to solve an issue, right? And you won't know until they prop up, right?
Yeah, and the ones that are there, like there are some sites that have really great tools that like I use when I'm even working on the game just to get information quickly, and we try and provide those people with the tools they need to make those easier, because they do help the community a lot when they do pop up.
Yeah, I think there was like a filter creation tool or a filter sharing website. I remember that being a thing. I don't know if it's still around, but
I've never used that website. I don't know what you're talking about.
oh,
Yeah, it's
I'm sensing
definitely-
sarcasm.
Yes.
Alright. Danny asks, will there be an option to switch the keybinds and mouse buttons to be more like PUE when managing the inventory? So I think this is like, so like control clicking, shift clicking, stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't have any direct plans to right now, but the way it's built, so I'm the one that did it, and should be changed such that this type of request is easier to fulfill. I think it's a reasonable request, but we don't have it in the pipeline or anything just yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't expect that, but that'd be a cool feature though. LA asks, what does the dev team, so you guys, think about the state of item filters? Do they think they are easy and intuitive enough for players to make their own? How necessary do you think they are in order to play the game? And how happy with how necessary or not necessary they are to play the game?
Yeah, we're pretty happy with where the filter system is at the moment, knowing that we do want to continue to expand on it and bring quality of life improvements to it. But in general, we do get feedback that the filter system in-game is generally intuitive and well received. That being said, we want to make it so that loot drops don't require that you have an item filter. So whenever we're testing loot drops, we are doing that without the item filter on first and foremost. And then the item filter should be for players that are a little bit more advanced and know the exact route of the build that they're trying to go with. So yeah, we're pretty happy with it, and we are planning to continue to bring some additional quality of life improvements to it.
Yeah, I remember having
nice
this much damage normally.
Yeah, this is actually going okay, and I just jinxed it.
I think we're gonna
I've been
kill him without
crafting
seeing
well.
the flame. Oh, no, here we go.
We might.
No, he's doing. No, he's doing it. Oh, okay.
Fight.
Question. Console. Talk about console. Very detailed question. Oh, too late.
yeah. Consoles is something that we would love to have Last Epoch be a part of in the future. We want to make sure first and foremost that the platform that we're releasing on right now is very solid, and depending on how well received the game is at launch, depending on the resources we obtained, it's all depending on how well things go in that regard. But we are going to continue to improve controller for PC, which would of course transfer over to consoles. And most of the things that we're doing right now would not limit us from going to consoles. So we think in the future there is a decent chance that does happen.
Right. I'm seeing some minion questions in chat. People want to know about minion stats, like viewing them. They want to know about. What are you guys asking, chat? How about scaling minion damage? I guess there's just a lot of questions about minions just in general. Probably AI as well, right?
I mean, I could just randomly
Yeah.
go on a rant
go to
about
town.
minions, but
Go-
like,
go on the rant.
what do you want to know about minions? I think we kind of like we've certainly put a lot of work into making them behave well. We made a lot of AI improvements to them. We've definitely learned over the years that there's a lot of effort that it takes to actually make an AI seem, behave so well that you don't actually notice it behaving poorly. That's actually harder to make you not notice than it is to notice something. I mean, like in terms of damage versus gear scaling, though, is there an actual question regarding it?
Not
I don't see a
sure.
question. Yeah, I'm stuck disconnected right now, though. I gotta join back in.
No worries, we'll wait. Well, I guess one thing, I was just in global, and I mean, you know how global is, it's the wild, wild west, and someone was like, all minion builds other than Herald the Scary are trash because only Herald has good AI. I don't know what that means, because I've never played a minion build yet. It's something I was actually going to explore, but...
Yeah, and I think we were talking about that. So we actually have made the improvements that are on those squirrels / wolves are everywhere else in the game now. In this build that we're playing right now, you would see those. So in the open beta, every minion AI will have been significantly improved to be pulled up to the level of those. So yeah, we definitely saw that, and we've already fixed it.
Hopefully not that specific rant.
No, that's not quite a rant at all.
Fair play, fair play. So this is more of like in the future kind of question. So Power Creep, I remember actually watching interviews with the PoE devs, and I remember what they said about Power Creep. So it'd be interesting to hear your take. Is there any plans for preventing player power spiraling out of control and ending up with ridiculous, numbers on gear? So just generic Power Creep question.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great one. I've actually talked to Chris about it because, it's, when you look back on 10 years of something you've made, and, you try to make as many good decisions as you can, but 10 years of changes and additions can be really challenging to maintain. An advantage for us is we've had the learning lessons of watching other games, similar to us, in this new era where, it's almost a service-based game that goes on for a long time. And for us, yeah, we definitely want to avoid kind of boosting achievable player power so extensively. We don't plan for post-launch changes that will affect player power as drastically as the introduction of exalted or legendary items. There'll still be power increases because we're going to be adding new mechanics, and as we balance changes. Another thing that we see with the increase of power is we've gotten better at synergy between different skills in the skill trees, which naturally tends to increase some of the power of builds. The nice thing there is we can make major adjustments to an individual skill's power without impacting the rest of the game. So, we plan to kind of avoid all of it by having a big impact on the power of players relative to monsters by continuously and gradually increasing monster power. This is something we've already been doing the past few patches. It kind of avoids the need for like a single patch that makes the game more difficult. We're definitely going to be taking a careful and iterative approach to it, and we've had the advantage of learning the lessons from other games like us.
Yeah. Lizard's actually asking, now, you'll have to carry me a bit on this one because I'm not sure, but he's asking about Lost Memories endgame system and its future. So I'm not even sure what this is.
No one's sure what it is because we haven't said anything about it at all other than the name.
Yeah.
Right, I guess that's keep it secret, right? Right, no worries.
It was the name of a feature that we've put on our roadmap, little roadmap snippets that we've posted out. And we don't have any information that we're ready to share.
Yeah, I figured. Getting me to ask the naughty question, Lizard.
Yeah.
Alright, leader potential.
We see you, Lizard.
Yeah. He's got 3 questions. So the first one, I'm pretty sure you already have this, but do they intend at one point to renew the mapping experience with procedural map generation? So you guys already have procedural map generation for the echoes, the monoliths, right?
No.
Yes. So we don't have actual, like, the map itself is not procedurally generated. The actual content of it is procedurally generated.
Right.
There's a huge amount of work to actually set up your art pipeline from the first day to get the whole maps procedurally generated. We're trying to look at other solutions for the time being. There's a lot of other games that have done things around randomness, uncertainty, and unexpected experiences that are really inspiring. And we want to keep adding things like that for the time being that will add a lot of variety to that. For us, one thing we change is that you don't always enter from the map in the same direction anymore, and just the actual content, the echo objectives we're placing in, the more of those we add, the more uncertain you are going to be getting in them, especially if you're coming from different directions. We would love to build out procedural generation one day, but in the interim, we're adding a ton of uncertainty and randomness in the actual game mechanics themselves.
Right.
I'm disconnected again. I am not dying, but I'm losing to the internet boss today.
I'm wondering, so if you look at our Discord, the team is testing town functionality. I wonder if
Oh.
anything's going on with that.
Go to execute order 66. Alright.
Well, we're testing internally while we test this live. We never stop, and I'm sure no one was worried about that at all.
Will the item crafting process or itemization be adapted due to multiplayer release? I think you probably covered this yesterday, but it's a pretty big one, right? The way multiplayer is going to change gear acquisition and gearing and all that, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, for us, it's important. Items are going to primarily come from finding and crafting them. We do think that process feels pretty good right now. It's a priority to avoid kind of compromising what we have. We're not really going to give our details to trade yet, which is where this is slowly going. But it's definitely a huge priority that we don't disrupt what we have for the itemization process going into the
Yeah.
launch.
I know a lot of people really like that, like, genuine, like, balanced around solo, I guess is a way of putting it, right? Like, you can play the game and get very far on your own. It does feel good, and it doesn't feel very good when it feels like you have to trade to progress your character. Like, that is the most efficient path, right?
Totally.
Right,
It's,
we don't want to disrupt that.
Yeah.
absolutely. Good news, the town tests went very well internally. We're not doing it
I'm
anymore.
I'm seeing the picture. It's pretty awesome.
Nice.
I think we put, 30 people together?
It looks to be something like that.
I'm good for a reinvite now.
Okay.
Wait, we weren't peeking stands by this whole time? Alright, we gotta chill.
I'm going to answer a question from chat. There any plans to add skills with skill trees that are not restricted by class mastery? Not at this time. Definitely interested in gameplay mechanics in the future that we could experiment with more variety, but at the time we don't have a plan for that. It's something we have talked about.
Yeah, feel free to do that, by the way. I think it's nice to get, like, live questions as well, right? So...
our character models gender lock's a done deal. We've actually answered this in the forums before too. It's something we really wanted to do, but it's an insane budget constraint for a team as small as ours. Post 1.0, we will definitely look back into considering what else we could do for customization, player identity. Oh, almost died.
yeah, there's a...
Sorry.
Alright, next question. Explain void damage in this part of the game. So scary.
So we wanted you to have a meaningful experience with resistances early in the game, because we also provide you with void resistance during this part of the campaign too.
Balanced it, made sure it was challenging, and then we doubled it.
Nice.
Oh my
It's a joke. It's a joke.
no.
If you're too young for that, Google it.
Alright,
No.
what's the plan with Endgame? It's completely opposite, going from, like, Act 1 to Endgame. Will the Monolith be the main Endgame content?
Yes.
We're far from done with creating in-game. Remember that 1.0 is just kickoff, and in-game and late progression will continue to be the main target of our continued additions as we continue on. That being said, we are currently planning for the Monolith to remain the core of the in-game experience, as we've built it to be the foundation for many additions into the future, including a lot more variety. So yes, Monolith is planned to be the main in-game feature, but you will see the offerings of the Monolith increase substantially as time goes on.
That makes sense. Yeah, I feel like I was telling Chad earlier that it's like a really good foundation. Like, oh god.
That's how we try to say.
Yeah, you can really build upon it. And it's improved so much even in the last year or so. With the echoes and the stability changes and all that kind of stuff. I think it's good.
Totally. And when we first made it, a lot of our focus was like, we understood at that time when we were making the Monolith, we were like, look, we aren't going to, our goal shouldn't be to try to match something from another game right away. We simply aren't going to add that much, such a gargantuan amount of content up front. So how do we build this in a way that we can add on to it forever? So we definitely thought right up front, what can we deliver now, and how easy will it be for us to plug in things to it in the future? And the answer is pretty easy. We have a lot of fun ideas coming up.
Nice. Chat's asking about leaderboards. So obviously, a big part about going from single player to multiplayer, specifically in terms of server authority, is that those arena leaderboards are now going to be very secure, right? So
Who are you?
Correct.
That's going to be very good. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, for sure. That we're really excited for that. I do love to see those, and we're well aware. Like we've watched the ladders the entire lifespan of Last Epoch. We can tell when there's a cheater. We can tell when people are cheating, but it looks like they're not. We see all those instances, but when it's fully online, fully authoritative, we have a lot more control right up front from it, and we'll have the ability to actually view player behaviors if we're finding any other kind of exploits. So we're super excited to be able to provide a leaderboard that we can trust as a real competitive experience. So we're super stoked to get that back.
Yeah, I think there was another question as well asking about the possibility of other kinds of leaderboards. So I know you guys like events, which is really cool, like community events, and maybe you guys run your own like sort of races and stuff like that. But outside of that, assuming you're continuing to support that, are there plans maybe to have campaign leaderboards or maybe boss leaderboards or anything like that?
Can I leak-ish or what we've been thinking about?
Yeah, what we've been thinking about. There's nothing set in stone yet.
Nothing set in stone.
Definitely lots of conversations happening. But Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, me myself personally, I've always loved non-traditional achievements. I love to do things that are, say, not standard or really bizarre. I love things like the insane achievement in WoW, or like some of the really bizarre, unnecessary ones. It's something we want to explore. We'd love to add leaderboards for things that are non-traditional and don't pertain to simply just being the highest skill, fastest, longest playing player. So we are exploring it. Like Judd said, there's no plans yet, but there's a bunch of us who love those kind of leaderboards and achievements, and it's something we want to think a lot about.
That's so cool. I was not expecting a yes or a maybe. That's cool. Alright. Oh, this is a big question, and it's at a ripping point in the game. Oh no. The current dungeon system is great, but has minor issues with certain boss mechanics feeling impossible for certain builds. Something that goes against not needing a dash on every character design. And mobs being able to off-screen you. Do you have plans for this?
I mean, the short answer is we're still tuning them. We're still tuning all the bosses, and there'll be some changes that are coming in 0.9 for sure. I think the higher tiers of the bosses are designed for people who've done them quite a number of times, and hopping right into those higher tier ones is definitely a risky endeavor for most players. So I'd be careful about that. And we do want them to be challenging and the mechanics to be tight. So there's probably the mechanic that's requiring a dash, air quotes, that's being referenced is the Lightless Arbor phase 1 boss, where it like smashes the ground pretty big. You can do that without a dash on the highest tier. It's really hard, but it requires anticipating the attack basically, and it's probably too fast right now as it is. And I think that they're looking at having mechanics scale with the tier is something that we'll be interested in doing as well. So we already have that, where early tiers are easier than harder tiers mechanically, and we're probably looking to expand that as well, so you can learn the fight a little bit better. Because sometimes you hop into tier 1 and you don't realize it's a one shot, you die, you have to do the whole thing over again. So we're like that's another problem we're looking at too. So there's different problems at opposite ends of the tier spectrum there that we are looking at addressing.
Yeah, how common is a Glyph of Despair at this point in the game?
Pretty rare.
Ooh. Let's steal some gear.
I'm full yellow gear now.
I'm still missing a ring,
invincible.
boys.
I've got 4 uniques equipped.
What? I still have just the Hammer of Laurent, dude. That's all I
I
get.
don't
is
know
the
if I've
Hammer of
dropped
Laurent.
a single. I haven't dropped a single unique this playthrough.
Wow.
Mike, you're just the luckiest person on the team, maybe besides Kyle.
I don't know what happens, but every single time, it's just the way it is.
So this question is about ults as well. Seems to be a theme here. Will there be changes to the Monolith system? So I think you guys have answered this. To make the process less painful for players who enjoy making ults. Currently having to get empowered monos in every character is a chore, especially when the mid portion isn't as challenging relative to the strength most builds can achieve at that point.
Yeah, and I think this is definitely more of an issue for very enfranchised players, people who are very familiar with the system and have a lot of gear that they are able to pop onto their characters early. It is sort of a process that we think is important for people starting their second, their third character ever, and they're still in that learning process. So we're still exploring ways that we can cater to both of those types of players. So it's work in progress still. We don't have anything specific to share on how we're going to address that yet.
Mm-hmm. I would scroll down, but I don't want to risk doing the load screen. Oh, we're good. All right. Alright, here we go. Damagus asks, what's the plan for more outdated skills that are not being used? It gives examples like Tempest Strike, Summon Bear, and Ice Thorns, etc.
For sure. Plans for Tempest Strike are uncertain at the moment. There's a prototype of it as a much higher power, higher cost skill that feels good. But the rest of the selection for Primalist would need to be adapted to account for what we feel Tempest Strike delivers. For Summon Bear, it's very clear it will receive a new model and a skill tree. Ice Thorns is going to be replaced. It was almost removed in one of our prior patches, but we ultimately felt... Yeah, and we ultimately felt that just we needed to keep it for the time being until we had another solution. For outdated skills, we tend to certainly target those as the highest need for improvements. The things that look the worst, definitely critical to us. Things that perform bad from a balance standpoint does matter as well. We'll have better data on those kind of things as we're actually online and can kind of see those things a bit better.
Yeah, I just got a unique, but I don't think I can use it.
What is it?
The Harthenon's Vow. Harthenon's Vow.
Yeah.
Any plans on adding autocast for spamming skills for all classes? So I've heard you guys' opinion on this. I'll let you answer, but yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fundamental there is that if something is regularly being auto-cast in every situation, that there's no decision making being made into that, and that's an issue with the actual skills design itself rather than the act of automating. If it's most effective to use it passively, why is it actually an active skill? For most builds, we do want players to feel like they can put 5 active skills on their bar to have a variety of tools for killing enemies. We do like a certain level of automation for people, you know, the RSI. We want to reduce the amount of clicks, things we were talking about yesterday. But when it comes to auto casting, it's often when it gets to the level of, say, the auto bombing build that is public right now, it's often an issue with the skills design, and we want to try to change how that is enabled without completely destroying the identity of what, you know, the result is.
Yeah, I've got one of those 100 in hardcore right now.
I know.
Yeah, that's a fun build, dude. Maybe there's a place for builds like I guess, like you said, maybe at that point there should be an aura or something.
Yeah, that build in particular is super cool. Like we would not just go and destroy the viability of what that is, but we want to kind of adjust how it's modified. We're actually, there's an ongoing conversation right now about it, so I can't speak too much to specifically that build at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, this guy's asking about cutscenes. Well, yeah, they already mentioned that. Maybe some
we have a number of cutscenes being developed right now that you guys will experience throughout the campaign, oftentimes at the start or the end of chapters. But yeah, we have quite a few of them coming along. Really excited about getting those to everyone, and those won't be in 0.9, but we're hoping to have those in the game by 1.0.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm a cutscene enjoyer.
It's gonna help a lot for just getting the storyline across and getting people immersed in it. I think it'll help a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of presentational elements to the story being improved right now. A lot of the chapter content that was developed in the game was done early on when we were a much smaller studio, way less resources. We now have a new world and story lead. We have all the dialogue being rewritten. We have NPC portraits. We're having custom NPCs being developed for all of the major characters. Voice acting across the game. If you look at the latest chapter that we have in the game, we call it Chapter H internally, but it's the one, well, I won't spoil it in case anybody's not gotten there. But if you look at the latest, there you go. Yes. But if you look at that would be we want that, every chapter that we go back and retouch for it to be at least that level of quality.
Yeah, it'd be sick. Okay. This is so hard. The hardcore thing. Oh god. Now. Oh, go for it.
I said we need more meaningful content to get your javelin build in for an hour-long fight.
Oh my gosh. Don't
Never
remind
gonna
me.
let that go. Oh, I'm going to.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I was playing a javelin build, and I was just doing my own thing, right? Which you can do, but obviously, depending on how good you are at making your own thing, which I'm not, you know, I just follow lizards guides and stuff like that, you're gonna struggle a little bit more, and I struggled. I struggled a lot. Ooh. To be fair, I believe the act that I was struggling on did get nerfed, right? It wasn't just me, right?
We did make adjustments to that boss.
I'm not bad. I'm not bad. Cope. This person's asking about story. So right now it's not too clear when one act finishes and another begins. The story is great, but sometimes it can feel difficult to care. Any plans on improving how the story is related to the player? I think I have noticed that. Like sometimes I'll enter a town and I'm not aware that is now the beginning of a new act. I think that is.
Yeah, and that goes back to kind of the answers I gave a second ago. Just the story presentation that we are touching on right now, with the addition of cutscenes, dialogue being fully voice acted, some chapters being completely reworked. I don't think we've actually announced all the chapters that we're completely reworking, but those of you that are longtime players probably can point to a couple that you would suspect, and those would be the targets.
Alright, we're made in the shade. I got spirit play.
Nice. Oh, we gotta go back left, right?
We'll leave that to your joy of discovery.
Well, I'm following you guys now.
Wait, what? No.
You know, it's probably not a terrible idea to farm just a little bit. I'm down.
I don't know. I thought we were gonna live on the edge a bit here. We did Monolith at level 22 yesterday.
Yeah, we're
You know
already
what?
17.
If you three want to go do a monolith,
No, I didn't say I want to do a model.
I think we should.
Yeah,
Because
just
at
you
this
three.
point we're all gearing appropriately for probably the first time ever at this level. And if we're trying to die, that would be the way.
Yeah, trying to die. That's yep. Oh yeah, the Magus also says he just appreciates you guys. He says he thinks you guys are doing an amazing job, loves it, can't wait for release. Community loves it. You guys are awesome. Thank you for okay, calm down. All right, calm down. All right.
Appreciate the kind words.
Tries the effort. Actually, I already mentioned that. Yeah, it was going back to that idea about special leaderboards and all that kind of stuff. Here we go. Hex Ability asks, any plans on making XP useful after 100? I keep suggesting converting XP into something useful, like crafting materials, adding on LP or something else. Just keeping XP relevant.
We have some plans, and we've definitely seen some really good suggestions from the community. I don't know if I've seen exactly what I think the front runner is right now, but yeah,
we actually do have an answer for this, but it's not time to unveil that just yet.
Fair play.
Yeah,
but yes, we will have a reason to continue.
I will admit, I was playing my 100 before we did this, and the XP bar not really doing anything is a bit. I mean, this is a big problem in PoE as well. The only difference is in PoE you never hit 100 pretty much because it takes forever. But when you do, it's like you do have that problem in PoE.
That 95 to 100 stretch of experience is we are definitely looking at elongating that a little bit as well, because the relative power you're getting from levels at that stage is so small compared to the relative power you get at earlier levels, that it's less important to even hit 100, and it's more of an achievement than a requirement for a build.
I remember a thread about this. I think there was one about death penalty as well. And people are very like, how do I put this? It's a hard sell to say you're making the grind a little bit longer, isn't it? It's not going to be that bad, I imagine, but
no.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be fine, chat. It'll be fine.
Some of it comes from the idea that the game starts at max level. So there's other games that happen, like I'll use WoW as the extreme example. Like WoW doesn't really start for a lot of people until you hit max level, and we're definitely not that model. Like the game starts way before you hit max level. Even like the end game starts way before you hit max level. It's not the hitting max level is not your mark of like, okay, now I get to start playing the game.
What do you guys consider endgame actually? Just monoliths, or do you consider empowered monoliths the endgame? Like, bit of a tangent, but
I don't know if we've necessarily like put the flag in the sand about exactly where we say in-game starts. We definitely refer to Monolith and Arena as in-game systems.
Can you die the dot? Like, will I go from 1 to 0? With like a poison?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Didn't totally just nearly die, it's fine. That's terrifying. I don't remember there being poison damage at this point, actually. Probably always been, but anyway. Will we see
You're usually running really fast.
Right. Will we see the return of flanking strike in some fashion? So I'm not familiar with this, but it's a question from the Reddit.
Oh, I loved flanking strike. The initial concept for flanking strike, and we never really got the functionality into be exactly what we wanted this skill to actually do. At this point, probably not, but we'll see. We will be continuing to add skills to classes well after release. We've talked a little bit about the fact that we are very interested in adding additional masteries to classes, which would give us an opportunity to add quite a few more skills. So flanking strike itself, maybe not. We didn't get it in the correct way the first time we had it. We eventually did have to remove it, so we'll have to see on that one.
Beautiful.
For anyone who doesn't know, Flanking Strike was an ability that dashed you and one of your minions to the target, and so both of you attacked it simultaneously from range into
Yeah, it
melee
was-
range.
When I had first concepted that, it was that your companion would take aggro on the target, and then you would dash and intercept and strike the target. And in my head, it was way cooler.
I'm totally asking questions because I'm not gonna die. Could it be possible to get random damage type on uniques, like fire or cold, or just generic damage? I think you guys have talked about this. This is the adaptive damage system, right?
Yeah, so our changes there to additive damage are going to significantly increase the viability of options. We added, in the past we added adaptive spell damage, which was really popular and we loved, and we realized that's something we wanted to do to enable and power melee builds without feeling limited. I'd say we're definitely going to keep looking at how to improve the viability of items for wider builds. We don't want to, I don't want to say we're going to move towards homogenizing things. That's not what we're doing. We want to make things generally useful, is our goal. We want to mix that with like really specifically curated ideas. I mentioned yesterday, right now we actually have 300 planned uniques, and we want those to be not one direction or the other. We want some to actually be for particular builds or be more generally useful. So yeah, I think people are going to see a huge difference in the open beta with the additive damage changes that we've done.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember like there was some fire weapon, and obviously it just felt like you had to play with fire, right? So
I'm using that in a build right now.
oh shit.
I'm doing I have a fire sentinel build that literally the only goal is to just have everything as fire. If you can't tell, that's a theme.
Right.
My lightning build yesterday.
Luna Vortex asks, since there'll be cycles, seasons, epochs in the future, will there be a challenge system to them with seasonal rewards? On top, I also asking about cosmetics, will there be cool wings?
For the first part, we definitely think challenges are very cool. It's something we want to explore. We were talking a little bit about it earlier. Non-traditional challenges that aren't just, say, beat the boss at X duration. We want to look at other stuff behind that. Besides that, having exclusive reasons to come check out new content in a cycle is something we really want to consider as well, of course. For cool wings, I think Judd could answer that.
Yeah, so our cosmetic system, we definitely do have a back slot, and we're planning on doing a lot of things with things like capes that are really cool. We don't have any wings that we are proceeding with creating at the moment. However, considering that the game is going to be producing these for many years into the future, I would suspect that we eventually do have some wings. We're probably not going to lean into them as hard as some other games in the genre, though.
We kind of already answered that one. Oh, here we go. So this is actually a pretty relevant one. Also, I'm totally lost. Where we going, boys?
Portal to myself or Judd.
Alright, let's do that. Right. So Elix asks, I've seen many questions regarding game balance in regards to trade and SSF, but I would like to ask a similar thing, but something that's more important to me. Is the game going to be balanced around hardcore? Especially if trading becomes popular, player power will rise up, which might falsely indicate a need to raise monster damage, which then disregards hardcore.
It's a great question. And I apologize. Many of those cases that ask about whether or not we make decisions based off a particular thing, the answer is almost always no. Will we be balancing around hardcore? No. Will we address hardcore game needs? Absolutely. We've definitely been making a solo self-found experience for a number of years because we've had it offline. It's a great game that you can play yourself, and now as we go online and we're testing, different formats for how trade will work, we need to see how that has an impact on the years of effort we've put in behind the rest of the game. So with that said, hardcore mode is very important to us, and we want to see what our changes do to it, and then make adjustments to make sure it's still a great experience. We don't approach balance considerations by, say, picking a target first and aiming for it.
Monka.
You guys seem fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like
I didn't.
we got
I
damage.
didn't move at all.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's targeting me. You're welcome. This is more of a fun question. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's get a fun question. So I just noticed, and I know you covered this yesterday, but I'm gonna bring it up anyway. Who's casting the ice? Is that you, Judd?
It is, yes.
It's really hard to see the ground with the ice everywhere. So, is there plans to do something about party play, visual effects and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that we answered yesterday as well. Visual clarity on the screen, very, very important to us. Now that we actually have multiplayer up and we're testing this, we're implementing new systems so that we can have certain portions of the effect appear on the client screen and not everybody else's screen. For example, I typically play a meteor build because I just absolutely love meteor. We found that the targeting reticles on the ground are they are too visually obscuring for the other players in the party, so we're going to make it so the targeting reticles aren't visible by the party. And then we're also looking at just all the skills in general, and if they are obscuring the screen too much, we will reduce them as needed. Very much on top of that one, though. And I can absolutely see how Glacier is a little noisy right now.
Only when you cast it repeatedly on top of the boss when he's channeling a little visibilities, you know.
Yep.
Not ideal, yeah.
I see what you're trying to do there. Actual Typhoon asks, what's your favorite boss in the game and why? It's a bit of a fun question.
I have an answer.
Go for it.
My favorite boss is the Shade of Orbos because of how varied it is, and you never really know what mechanics you're getting up against when the fight starts. So there's always a bit of uncertainty in the fight, and I just love that, where you're like, you have to adapt on the fly how you're gonna play the fight when it starts. Like, so you can't go in knowing like, okay, I gotta prepare for this ability, you gotta stack this resistance, and it's always like, who knows what's coming. And I just love that.
For me, it's Argentis, because before we released Argentis, Argentis was incredibly overpowered and was using their abilities at a much higher rate than we shipped. And I remember I was testing it on I believe it was a Sentinel at the time I was playing, and I had a whole bunch of people actually jumped in the voice channel watching me like stream the test version of the boss that was way overtuned. And I was just sweating for like 20 minutes trying to kill it, and so it was just super epic. I love that fight. It's just really intense, so it's always something that I'll remember just being a really cool moment.
I'd probably go with Majasa. I was very impressed with what the team was able to accomplish. You know, flexing some new tech, doing phase changes, implementing a lot of cool new VFX and stuff for that fight. I thought that turned out really well. There's just a lot of cool moments in development with Majasa, and I'm happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, Majasa was an awesome fight. I love that fight. I'm not afraid to say it was kind of like my first hard fight, like out of the axe bosses, because I know the Monolith bosses have lots of mechanics, very dangerous mechanics. I saw another PoE streamer, Khan, literally just died on his first Monolith boss, which is hilarious. And he's done like the hardest bosses in PoE, so that was funny. But yeah, I feel like Majasa was the first boss that really was like, oh my god, mechanics. I think I failed it twice. I didn't die, but I had to like literally like abandon ship. That was brutal.
Respect my skill.
Oh god.
I got a question from chat here. Question about movement skills. Are they happy that every class has unique movement skills rather than giving the same options? Yes, definitely. We love having a specific variety in the distance, the type, the cooldowns, and the different mechanics of movement for the classes. I think it is really important for the identities of the different playstyles of the classes. And it's something we have a lot of fun trying to adjust over time. So I personally really love having the movement abilities being significantly different per class.
We actually did experiment with having a static movement ability for every class having the same ability. and having it be a set button on your bar and all that sort of stuff. Like, so we have experimented with different ways in there.
Yeah, we have a lot of conversations about class identity, and we make sure that the vast majority of decisions that we make do refer to class identity and push that further. And when we're talking about adding some type of movement skill that everybody has, there are some gameplay advantages to having that, because you can create fights and know that everybody has this one button that they can use at the given time. But we prefer to make it so that all these classes feel distinct.
Yeah. On the topic of skills, actually, someone was asking about the possibility of global skills. Specifically in regards to maybe like unlocking a skill by maybe some sort of endgame system.
So in terms of like a global skill, there's a lot of actual technical challenges behind it. For example, making sure animations, like character models, the casting, VFX, all of that need to kind of line up and look nice. You can really kind of get into a pretty ugly place with abilities by mixing and matching them. We've definitely explored the concept of what we can do to add some variety in future endgame systems that we would want to add to the game. We're definitely nothing that we have planned that we'd be discussing here, but we're really interested in thinking about that option. But at the time being, it's really difficult to kind of have cross skill viability like that. So we're gonna keep thinking about that through the future.
Yeah, maybe like expansion down the line, eh? Some super endgame stuff.
Well, we had interesting things like the dungeon mechanics, dungeon abilities, and I think that's a space where you could see us, now that we've learned some lessons about how that works, we're probably going to get a little bit more innovative with the dungeon abilities, for example, in the future.
Yeah. I'll just address two things as well that people keep asking. So, should we just talk about trade again? I mean, because a lot of people keep asking about trade. Could we talk about that actually in a sort of generic sort of sense? Because obviously I know nothing's ready to announce yet, but like, do you have any like, I guess, stories about discussions regarding trade? Like, how did the bazaar, like what happened with the bazaar, or,
I mean, it's... Trade is just, it's so important, and the implications are so large that we've had discussions about trade more than absolutely anything in the game, period, and we've been having those discussions at this point for 5 years without actually putting out anything in the wild. So it's we have as very large proponent players in the genre. We played all of these games. People that we continue to hire play these games for thousands of hours, and we know what comes from just even small decisions to trade. And we know that we're not going to make absolutely everybody happy with any type of trade system that we put out there. And so we really have to go back to the roots of what is Last Epoch, and how we have built this game to be played, and make sure that the trading system that we implement into the game does not overrule or adulterize what we've created here, because we have created a game that the experience with going and finding loot and crafting the loot that we have here does feel good at the moment. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. There's been an absolute ton of conversations on trade. It's been extensive.
Yeah, I'd love to peep one of those conversations, but maybe after, maybe after trades release.
Yeah, it's I can at least say that with the conversations that we have with trade, we finally have nearly the entire team on board with the decision that we are trialing in the near future. It makes sense to nearly every single person on the team, and that's a really good indication that we have arrived at something that we think is good for Last Epoch.
What is this?
Can we get through?
Still getting through.
Okay. All right. I've
Wiggle.
never seen this.
Wiggle. Okay, I can't wiggle past the rock.
Someone
I blew it.
through.
We're good.
Report to me.
Oh, there was like a destructible. Oh.
That's hilarious.
I saw a chat question. We answered a little bit. Do we plan to kind of get feedback and balance through real statistics or through Reddit posts? For us, yeah, we're definitely adding game data as we get through the launch of the game. We want to be able to observe things better ourselves, player behaviors online. I will clarify. We're not going to be going to a data-driven model at all. We will be more in the concept of data-informed. Data will help us make decisions about what we're seeing in player behaviors, but data we start collecting will not be the singular means at which we make decisions, because we got this far from listening to player feedback constantly. So when we add data, don't expect it to say totally change how we listen to player feedback.
There we go.
Figure this out.
Alright.
Here we go.
Here's a spicy one. An actual Typhoon asks, if you could go back and give your past selves advice when you were first starting the project, what would you say? So I think I heard you guys talk about your roots and how it started out as very, very, very bare bones, sort of like, like a dream,
Yeah. A lot of lessons learned on the way here. We've had a very non-traditional path getting from where we started to where we are right now, and we've learned a ton of things on the way. It's hard not to just say, like, go ultra hard in securing funding to start off with the server authoritative model from the get-go, because that probably has been our biggest challenge. Very happy with how we have progressed in that now, but it's definitely been the biggest heartache.
For me, yeah, that the blunt answer is have a ton of money to make server authority from day one. Other than that, there's not a lot I would change, because this has been one of the most fun things I've ever gotten to do in my life. Is we get to make an action RPG. We're improving it every day. We're building it. We're here together, finally playing after all these years. I'm still pretty overwhelmed by that, honestly. So yeah, I wouldn't really change a lot.
If I was gonna say something, I would say to myself, it's gonna be worth it. Just keep pushing.
Yeah, same here.
Been a blast. I mean, it's a dream come true being able to be at the state that we are. I mean, and then the journey has also been very, very enjoyable.
That's awesome. Are we stuck, by the way?
Possibly?
I can't seem to use the waypoint.
Feels a bit stuck.
You can't click
Yeah.
anywhere, eh? Let me try.
Yeah, we're trying to portal, trying to waypoint. We struggled getting into this zone too. It might just be a relog moment.
Yeah, no worries. Has anyone asked about numlock skills available to people without a numpad, like your Void Knight Auto Bomber? Yeah, like I said, or like they said, if people are numlock tricking, the skill's probably going to be fundamentally changed to not delete that playstyle, but not require the numlock tick, right?
Yeah, and we're super mindful. Like, if someone doesn't have a numpad and is trying to automate, there's an accessibility request there, which is something we care a lot about. So things like that we are mindful of. Again, yeah, we're really mindful of how many clicks it takes to play our game, and we're, if Judd's RSI says anything to you, we're very happy to keep that manageable.
Yeah, but we have the 5 skills in the action bar, and we want those to be active skills. If you notice, there are a number of skills that we could just leave as more so passive abilities, like your companions on the Primalist, or your summons on the Acolyte, or our auras on the Paladin. But we try to make it so that if you have a button on your bar, you can press it to activate something. And if it's just always needing to be pressed, that is a passive effect.
So a lot of people are asking about things like pricing and stuff like that, regarding MTX, and also I see this a lot. I saw this yesterday too. People ask constantly about a Steam sale or a sale. I guess people are really, really keen on that. I don't know if you can say anything about that, but.
Yeah, I mean, pricing for MTX is something that we'll release at a time where we can give reasoning behind it, it's probably not the best best method of communication just to unveil that type of information over a voice chat here. But you know, it's reasonable. It's vague. I understand. I apologize.
It has to be vague. Yeah.
it has,
It's
it
not
has
really
to be
voice.
vague right now. What was the other question?
People actually just keep spamming
Steam
about
sale.
a Steam sale, even on your subreddit.
Oh, Steam
like,
sale,
repeatedly.
Steam sale, yeah. So we did announce that we were going to have our last sale up to 1.0 recently, and we don't want to go back on that. We will have sales in the future for sure, especially when we're doing events similar to this. But the price right now is locked in up till 1.0.
That makes sense. I actually didn't know about that. Well, I mean, that's a pretty definitive answer then, chat. Easy. What was the inspiration
we can,
behind? Oh, go, sorry.
Maybe we'll die and we'll be able to give out some keys today.
Yeah, maybe we all died and we all have to do. Yeah.
Is this a death?
If
this
our
is
server doesn't
internet
connect,
death.
if the
I
server
mean-
doesn't connect, I will count this as an EHG death.
Yeah, does the server donate games? Yeah.
I think it counts. You know, that's hardcore, right?
You were asking what was the inspiration behind like the story for like time travel
For time
mechanics?
traveling.
Oh, yeah. So when I initially had concepted the game, I was and really even building the team, I was trying to find people that absolutely loved a few different games. Diablo 2 being one, Path of Exile being one, and then an old school SNES game called Chrono Trigger. Just was absolutely in love with it as a kid, made a big impact on me. Loved the storytelling that they were able to come up with because of the time travel mechanic. And I knew that it would give us a lot of options for an action RPG, because if you have time travel, I mean, just the options are endless. You can see that we have built our in-game with time travel in mind, which means that, you know, the possibilities are just absolutely endless there. So the answer is Chrono Trigger and the possibilities that time travel brings us.
Yeah, I never played Chrono Trigger. Am I naughty? I think they
Fantastic game.
I think they
Worth
even
your
had it
time.
at the arcade and everything.
Arcade Chrono Trigger game?
Something like that. Some sort of time. I'm probably thinking of a different game.
That was probably Ninja Turtles in Time. Also
Maybe.
a fantastic game.
Turtles in Time, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. We just actually had a remake
I'm thinking
for
Time
that
Crisis,
game
yeah.
recently.
Time Crisis, that was good
Good one too. I'm gonna relog and see if that helps us.
I actually think we got through the list, technically speaking. I think we actually got through the list.
We did,
Ah,
and we've been
Like-
answering some chat.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the servers don't come back up. If we ended there, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, given that we'd get through the list. But
Does it count as a you death as well, Steel, or just us?
Oh.
I don't think I died. Okay, I'm pretty sure we
Feels
were
like
all,
I did not die.
I'm pretty sure we were all safe. I'll be honest.
No,
I was
that
trying
makes sense.
to
Let's,
kill you guys, but yeah.
Let's wrap it up, and we will give out keys as EHG here, and Steel, let me send those to you via Discord.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool.
And you just tell me how many, and I can just give them away now, actually.
Okay, let's do that. We're gonna
I think
give
that-
75 here.
Okay, if you're giving 75, and we all technically disconnected, I should give 75, because that was the whole deal, right?
I mean, that's what I was suggesting.
Okay, I guess we all died. The server died, we all died. I'll do the same. If you just do 150, and then I'll do my 75 after.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
This will be the biggest key giveaway I think we've ever done.
Yeah, there you go. How's that for a sale, chat? How's that? But yeah, thank you so much for agreeing, by the way, to the hardcore thing. I think it was fun. It was
Super fun.
it was a bit stressful.
We'll try it again.
Alright, get in, boys. See, we can cover the... Oh, we're in! I think.
Oh,
yep. I see what happened. You took the servers down so you could do a giveaway. I see what's going. Well, I'm committed. We've committed. So, I mean, we'll just talk casually while this loads. You guys excited? You guys nervous? You must be nervous. You must be so nervous for the next year.
Definitely all of everything. You know, there's a lot of games coming out. There's a lot of challenge behind making sure this is stable and a consistent release. There's a lot of challenge to like move. You know, one big thing that's been for us internally interesting is, you know, we're changing from dropping a major patch every 3 months to having to actually close the game into a 1.0 version of itself, which is a totally different way of shipping the game, right? So that whole process has been really interesting. As people know, we haven't you know, we kind of went offline with releasing patches for the time being, and that's changed how we develop the game too. So a lot of it very exciting, very scary, mix of emotions. I am so happy that we get to do it though. But this has been really great. Really do appreciate getting to do this a second time. I think the questions have been fantastic. I really like to we managed to get through them all and answering chat. I'm really grateful that we have so much interest and people, you know, curious about what we're going to do in the future.
I mean, I'll put it this way. It's one of those things where I guarantee you a bajillion people are going to be super interested for at least one day. That's why I say, are you nervous? Because it's going to be one of those situations, you know? Monka. Server's on fire.
For sure.
Let's see. Theoden Arete asks, besides isometric ARPGs and Chrono Trigger, what are your favorite games? I'll say my gaming history largely was, you know, JRPGs back in like the SNES, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era. A lot of fantastic games in between there as well. You know, you had just all the SNES games were fantastic. World of Warcraft hooked me really good. Played that for a very long period of time. And then really it just a gross amount of hours into action RPGs. And then here we are.
Alright, no
Congrats
worries.
to everyone that won a key though.
Thank you for having us on. It was wonderful. I had a ton of fun as always.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you guys. Obviously, I've met Stanswell, but you know, nice to chat. And we'll be back on tomorrow. Lizard11, did he actually? Are you trolling? He did it, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Congrats, Lizard. Thank you for that
my
giveaway to
God.
somebody else. And thank you very much for having us, Steel.
Beautiful.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. It was a
Alright.
pleasure.
GG's.
Take care.
GG's.
Bye all.
Bye.